The Princess and the Dervish. Princess Maria lived in a world tiled with marble and framed by gold. Her kingdom, Asteria, was a paragon of prosperity, its mountains yielding silver and its rivers running fat with trade. Yet, inside the vast, sun-drenched halls of the citadel, Maria felt perpetually shaded. She was 17, fluent in 6 languages, skilled in embroidery, and practiced at the diplomatic smile. But her world was a masterpiece of illusion. Everything was beautiful, but nothing was real. Maria watched the world not through a window, but through a tapestry, vivid, intricate, and utterly fixed. Every conversation was pre-written, every path laid out. She was to marry a suitable prince, bear suitable children, and preside over a suitable court. Her heart, however, yearned for the ragged edges of reality, the things that couldn't be smoothed down by the royal hand. One night, unable to sleep beneath the oppressive weight of her silk canopy, she stole into the forbidden royal gardens. This was not the manicured space of fountains and clipped hedges, but the wild, ancient heart of the citadel grounds. Under a moon that looked like a newly minted silver coin, Maria encountered him. He sat by a root-tangled pool, his face obscured by the high shadow of an oak. He was a dervish, a wandering mystic, identifiable only by his patched, coarse woolen cloak and the profound stillness that wrapped him like a second skin. He was not supposed to be there. No guards had seen him enter, and no wall should have let him pass. Maria, usually timid, felt no fear, only a powerful curiosity. "Sir," she whispered, her voice husky from disuse in genuine conversation. "Are you not cold?" The dervish turned his head slowly. His eyes, though old, were the color of storm water, a swirling gray-blue that seemed to see not her, but the space between her thoughts. "A person is cold only when the heat inside them runs low, Princess," he replied, his voice a low, resonant murmur, like wind chimes heard from a distance. "And you, Maria of Asteria, have an inferno of longing that keeps you very warm indeed." Maria's breath hitched. No one, not even her mother, had ever spoken to her with such directness, let alone named her secret desire. "How do you know who I am?" "The golden key of a kingdom is a difficult thing to hide," he said, gesturing to the tiny, intricate key pendant she wore, the symbol of her status. "But I know what you are too. You are a jewel whose brilliance is trapped by its setting. You wish to understand Asteria, but the citadel allows you only to govern its facade." Maria sank onto the grass, heedless of the stain it would leave on her nightdress. "Tell me, Dervish, how does one move the tapestry aside? How do I see what is real?" The dervish did not answer with words, but reached into a pouch tied to his waist. He withdrew an object so unremarkable it nearly vanished in the moonlight, a small, smooth stone, the size of a pigeon's egg. "This is the stone of unburdening," he said. "It holds no magic itself. The magic lies in the choice you make to carry it. I will give you 3 tasks. Complete them, and the stone will teach you how to truly see." He placed the stone in her hand. It was cold, heavy, and inert. "What are the tasks?" Maria asked, clutching the stone tightly. "You must spend 3 months outside the walls. For the first month, you must labor for your daily bread. For the second, you must live by the generosity of strangers. For the third, you must find the 3 forgotten wells of the kingdom's weeping, and ask no questions about their location, only listen for their sorrow." Maria hesitated only for a moment. This was not the adventure of a storybook, but a stripping away, a raw challenge to her very identity. "And when I return?" "You will return a sovereign, not merely an heir. You will see not what you wish to see, but what is. Now go. The night is short, and the sun will soon demand your gold key back." The next morning, Maria took only the clothes she wore, a heavy wool cloak, and the stone of unburdening. She left the gold key on her pillow, a shimmering counterpoint to the hollow space she left behind. She walked out of the secondary gate, unrecognizable beneath a traveler's hood, and stepped onto the dirt road that led away from the citadel's pristine shadow. Maria arrived in a farming village nestled in the foothills, the same hills that contained the silver mines that funded her father's treasury. The air here smelled of dung and damp hay, not polished beeswax. She approached a wizened woman named Alara, who was struggling to lift baskets of newly harvested root vegetables onto a cart. "Mistress," Maria offered, remembering to use a humble tone, "I am strong and in need of work." Alara eyed her, suspicious of her soft hands and clear skin. "You look like you've lifted nothing heavier than a teacup, girl. But I am desperate. 5 coppers a day and a pallet in the barn. Deal?" Maria agreed immediately, though 5 coppers was less than the cost of a single plume in her court hats. The first 2 weeks were a torture that stripped away Maria's pride like old paint. Her muscles ached with a deep, burning fire she never knew existed. She learned that a day of weeding bent over in the sun could make her forget the intricacies of international diplomacy. She learned that the phrase daily bread meant the actual, tangible weight of a meager loaf earned by sweat and blistering effort. The worst part was the sheer inefficiency of her knowledge. She could speak Latin, but couldn't tell good soil from bad. She could solve quadratic equations, but couldn't calculate the weight of a basket of potatoes by sight. She was educated, but utterly useless. One evening, exhausted, she sat in the dirt, wiping grit from her eyes. Alara, sitting beside her, handed her a chipped mug of warm goat's milk. "You work hard, city girl, but you waste too much movement. You push the hoe instead of letting its weight guide you. You try to force the earth, rather than cooperating with it." Maria looked at the stone of unburdening, which she kept tucked into her sleeve. It was still a dull, cold gray, but something in her had shifted. She was no longer Maria the princess. She was just a tired body learning how to cooperate with the world. She began to observe Alara, mirroring her movements, understanding that true efficiency was born of harmony, not force. By the end of the month, she was tired, but strong, and the meager bread tasted sweeter than any banquet she had known. For the second month, Maria was to live by the generosity of strangers. This task, she found, was far harder on her pride than the first. To ask for help, to present herself as needy, felt like a deliberate humiliation. She traveled further, reaching a mid-sized town known for its textile trade. She approached a baker, but the baker, burdened with debt, gave her only a stale crust and a resentful sigh. She approached a blacksmith, who ignored her outright. She spent 3 nights sleeping under the awning of a closed market stall, shivering, realizing for the first time that hunger was not a concept, but a gnawing, ever-present reality. Near despair, she sat on a bench outside a bustling market, her cloak pulled tight. The stone of unburdening felt like a lead weight, mocking her. A young woman, a weaver named Laina, with a face dusted perpetually with cotton lint, sat beside her. Laina was humming a simple, cheerful tune. Maria tried to look small and invisible. "Trouble, sister?" Laina asked, her voice light and kind. Maria swallowed her pride, which felt like swallowing a handful of sand. "I am traveling and without funds. I need a night's shelter." Laina looked at her carefully, not with suspicion, but with genuine assessment. She noted the quality of Maria's cloak, which, though travel-worn, was still finer than anything Laina owned. Yet, she saw the desperation in Maria's eyes. "My house is small, but the hearth is warm." "Come," Laina said simply, not questioning or judging. Laina's home was tiny, cramped, but immaculate. She shared her only blanket and her evening meal, a simple vegetable stew that was nonetheless rich with flavor. Maria asked, "Why did you take me in?" "I have nothing to offer you, and you noticed I am not truly poor." Laina smiled, stirring the stew. "I noticed you were human and hungry. And I am generous not because I have much, but because I know what it is to have nothing. A true gift is given not in expectation of return, but because the opportunity for kindness presented itself. You must always remember, stranger, that a king who has never had to ask for help cannot understand the true cost of giving it." The next morning, Maria offered to clean the house, mend Laina's clothes, and help with her weaving, determined to give back something. Maria stayed for a week, learning about the quiet terror of the high taxes her father imposed and the struggle to keep the business afloat. Maria had received no clues about the 3 forgotten wells, only the dervish's cryptic instruction: listen for their sorrow. She began her final month by shedding the last vestiges of her identity. She walked slowly, quietly, allowing the world to wash over her. She stopped talking and started truly listening. The first well she found was not water, but a vast, silent graveyard outside the capital city, far beyond the official royal cemetery. This was the resting place of those who died in the sickness 3 years prior, a fever that had swept through the poor quarters. The official records stated the king had provided ample aid, but here, the truth was laid bare in the earth. The families were too poor or too few to afford engraved markers. She did not cry, but a deep, sorrowful chill settled in her chest. The king had seen only a solved problem. Maria saw hundreds of silent tragedies. The second well was in a desolate, rocky valley where the river had been diverted years ago to power a new royal mill. The land was cracked and dry. Maria sat by the dry riverbed and listened. She heard the echo of stolen livelihood. This land had once been fertile, supporting dozens of shepherds whose flock relied on the river. Maria realized her father had not been cruel. He had simply been blind. The final well was the hardest to find. It was not a place, but a group of people. Maria spent a week in the outer market, simply sitting and watching the daily flow of petitioners who came to the citadel gate. They were the ones who were perpetually turned away by the haughty junior guards, the old, the disabled, the victims of petty corruption, the small-time inventors whose ideas were stolen by larger guilds. She heard their constant, low-grade, futile pleading. The sorrow was not acute, but chronic, a slow, daily death of hope. The citadel, built to protect them, had become a massive ear that was deliberately clogged. The final well was the sorrow of inaccessible justice. Maria sat with the petitioners on her last night outside the walls. She was filthy, she was tired, and she had spent 3 months utterly outside her comfort. She pulled out the stone of unburdening. It was no longer cold. In the twilight, it was glowing, radiating a soft, internal silver light. She understood. The dervish had been right. The magic was not in the stone itself, but in the burden she had shed. By shedding the weight of her privilege, the stone, the dervish was waiting for her in the same wild garden when she slipped back into the citadel grounds. He looked exactly the same, ageless and calm. The stone shines, he observed, without surprise. You have completed the tasks. What is the lesson? Maria held the glowing stone. The lesson is this. I came to you asking how to see what is real, thinking the answer was some complicated magic or secret ritual. But the answer was simple. I had to stop being served and start being the servant. I had to empty myself of my royal identity to make room for the lives of my people. The true walls of Asteria are not made of stone, but of silence and indifference. And the wells, he asked. The forgotten wells are where the king's love runs dry. They are the places where his good intentions did not meet the terrible reality. They are the silent, invisible wounds of the kingdom, Maria said. I listened, and now I hear the weeping. The dervish nodded, a profound satisfaction in his storm-colored eyes. The greatest magic in any kingdom is empathy. It is the only force that can heal a silent wound. Take the stone, Princess Maria. It is no longer needed to guide you, but to remind you. He stood and, without another word, faded into the shadows of the ancient oak. When Maria looked for him, he was gone, leaving only the sound of rustling leaves behind. Maria did not rush to her father, the king. She slept, and when she woke, she was not merely a princess, she was a sovereign who knew the price of a day's labor and the terror of an empty bowl. She put on her robes and the crown, but now they felt different, not like constraints, but like the tools of her new purpose. Maria's reign, which began 2 years later, was unlike any before it. She used the resources of the kingdom to establish the Well of Remembrance, a foundation to provide dignified burial and perpetual care for the unmarked graves. She commissioned engineers to restore the flow to the valley, finding alternative power sources, understanding that a culture was worth more than a mill. Most importantly, she established the Petitioners' Forum, a hall where common citizens could speak directly to the crown without passing through the filters of corrupt guards or biased courtiers. Maria kept the stone of unburdening on her desk, polished smooth by her travels. It glowed faintly, a permanent, silver reminder. She never forgot the taste of stale bread, the ache of her calloused hands, or the warmth of Laina's single blanket. The greatest lesson the dervish taught her was that to lead well, one must first learn to follow the small, true voice of the world, and that true power comes not from the weight of the crown, but from the lightness of an unburdened heart. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe the channel and like the video. Thank you.